Welcome back to day 2 of the Lost Coast Trail, where today we'll be doing 10.3 miles along the coast. To recap our hike yesterday, we started at Mattole Beach and hiked down to our first night's camp at Kooski Creek, which totaled about 6.5 miles. Today, we'll hike from Kooski Creek down to our second night's camp at Big Flat, which should be about 10.3 miles. All right, we're up and at 'em. It's about 9:20 in the morning. It's a beautiful day. We got Felicia here pondering if we should sleep in the same tent again after the smell of my quilt burned her nostrils. You got Jordan in his tent still sleeping. And everything is soaked. You can see water pooled in my foam sit pad. My shoes and socks are drenched after I tried to dry them out overnight. I walked over to my bear canister, which was basically an insect water park. You can see all the doo-doo on the plants. The moisture didn't stop us from cooking some eggs and beans for breakfast. The eggs were chewy though. This about sums up my morning.
Look less depressed while you're doing it.
Yeah, being wet sucks. And somehow I got a hole in my overpriced Z-Packs rain pants, and we had to lay everything out to dry in the sun. But the good thing is that we're next to a water source, and even in wet socks, you can't be that sad when you're out in nature. Speaking of nature, I didn't catch it on camera, but Jordan saw an eagle go full Mexican flag and flew by with a snake in its claws. I caught a quick glimpse of it here on camera. Oh. If you remember last video, I showed you this rock, which I thought might have one of those fossils in it, so this morning I decided to break it open and see what was inside.
Anything in there?
Damn, nothing.
Just a rock.
That sucks. It looks so perfect. I know, fake news. Womp womp.
What are your thoughts on this disappointment?
It looked promising, but instead it was disappointing.
Sounds like our relationship. Stop. Shut up. Whoa, caught in 4K.
Don't let her cuteness fool you. She would kill me first. No hesitation, no evidence left behind. All right, here. We got our bags on and we're ready to start this 10-mile journey. Immediately after we got onto the beach, we noticed these strange tracks left from last night. They look too big to be Jordan's. Just kidding, he's like a size 11. They did look like otter prints or a small fox, but they were weirdly spaced apart. These tracks led us right to... Just kidding, my girlfriend would never leave the coziness of her sleeping bag to be cold outside. We will find this culprit later in the day though. Anyway, here's our first epic waterfall of the day. Yeah, you should. Here's a Jordan for size comparison. Then we almost immediately got our second mini waterfall of the day. This waterfall was so fresh you could probably drink straight from it and be fine. I wouldn't recommend that though, but it's something I've definitely done in Yosemite a lot. This was interesting to see because that stuff that's moving on the mountain looks like water, but it's actually not water. That's dirt and rocks sliding off the mountain down this path. It's kind of like you're watching a small-scale erosion over time. As I mentioned last video, this beach landscape is constantly changing. Can I get 3 big booms for our third waterfall of the day? This one was beautiful. Wow. Natural face and body cleanser, and based on how I smelled, I needed a rinse too.
Yeah, just think of something dry to put on.
Oh,
That was it?
that's so cold. This water was absolutely glacial how cold it was. Wow, whoa, that's so... Yeah, it's gnarly. I can't even like fully go in. It's crazy how high up these waterfalls come from. Fall number 4. Wow. These bird migrations never seem to stop.
It's that traffic passing below you, flight of 6 F-35.
Traffic's in sight, too close for missile, switch to gun.
Hey, that might be the funniest thing I've ever heard in my entire life, man.
These awesome jagged rock formations look like they were blasted out of the earth, and we only saw them here on this part of the trail. Looks like Thanos' chin. There's my girlfriend looking sick. We found the tracks again, and we found the culprit.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
A cute river otter munching on its catch.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the... No, 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 no. Ah, look at the top of his head.
Sea otters do live in these kelp forests close to the shore. Here's another one diving into the water. They eat the urchins and whatever meat they can grab. Someone on Reddit told me this was a river otter though, and you can tell by their large tail. River otters often come out to feed here as well. Apparently, sea otters north of San Francisco were almost extinct and haven't fully recovered yet, which is pretty sad. The large rock population is doing fine though. Another interesting fact about this trail is that the construction workers of California's Highway 1 named this the Lost Coast because the area is so rugged and remote, they decided to reroute the road inland. Not only that, but there was a huge depopulation here in the 1930s, leaving this stretch of coastline mostly untouched, which is great because clearly tons of wildlife use this area, so that's how it got its name. Hey guys. Also, prior to World War II, a lot of the King Range wilderness was used as a sheep ranch that supplied a now-lost wool business in Eureka. There's evidence of that in my last video where we walked by this ruin about a mile north of Kuski Creek, which was actually an old sheep station house. There also used to be a metal-roofed barn there too that's also been lost to time. So much lost history on the Lost Coast. Maybe that's another reason it's such a fitting name, besides how remote it is. The King Range Mountains collect a ton of moisture and rainfall from storms from the Pacific Ocean, and because of that, the Lost Coast is one of the wettest sections of coastline in California. In fact, there's usually anywhere from 100 to 200 inches of annual rainfall, and all that water runoff causes erosion. Like I said, this place changes quick enough to watch it change in front of our eyes. This is a big contrast to other parks I've been to like Yosemite, which feels like it's been the same for thousands of years. After the Ice Age and glacial melting, of course. Maybe, yeah. We've been walking for a minute. All right, we've made it to our first big creek crossing at Randall Creek. This is the first creek of 6 today. The second will be Spanish Creek. The third will be Oat Creek. The fourth creek is Kinsey Creek. The fifth one will be Big Creek. And the last one is Big Flat Creek, which is the last one before we set up camp at Miller Flat. Take a shot for every time I said creek. This water looks so clear. Alright. Yeah, for sure.
That's what she said.
Like here? Oh yeah, maybe there. Yeah. Oh, nice.
Who can say where the road goes? Where the
That was solid.
I like this against me.
Here you can see the old sediment line where the beach used to be. My girlfriend said those rocks look like boobs.
Too white.
Yeah. That's what Jordan was saying. He said he can... Oh, they said there's a bear. It's like, what? Wish I were a bird. Pretty sick. This part was one of the hardest sections of the hike because you had to hike either on the wet sand, which was pretty soft, or the weird rocky terrain, which was on a steep grade. There wasn't much of a trail on the dirt either. It looks happy. More native trading cards. And more waterfalls. Wow. How dare you? It might be easier right here, babe. Yeah, on this left. Oh. We finally were able to get up onto a dirt trail, which was a huge relief on our legs. What is?
It just goes to like a 3.
I know. Oh! Slippery. Yeah, it was slippery.
Was that
No, that'll be on a rock for sure. Probably like at the very end when I think I'm chilling. As you can see, this place is totally overrun with vegetation, including a ton of poison oak and stinging nettles, which were extremely common along the whole route from Kuski Creek on down. If you stay on the trail, you should be fine though. None of us got it.
Spanish Ridge Trail is that way.
It's like a Spanish trail.
Spanish
We crossed the Spanish Ridge Trail marker, and this part of the hike was littered with old driftwood, which made it a perfect spot to find a place to sit and eat since I was starving. I do need some good grub. Oh. I picked this wooden throne and found a bone. Got my double chocolate cheesecake while I waited for my lunch to heat up. I've been chosen by this lucky ladybug.
He is the chosen one.
This was more like chocolate pudding, but it was still delicious. Can't go wrong with chicken Alfredo. I might have an addiction. Back on the trail, and we're all fueled up, ready to break some miles. This was a nice open trail, which led to this little forest with the creek hidden inside. Yeah. This water speaks Spanish? Not sure what this building is, but this might be an old house the sheep farmers used back in the day. I believe that mountain behind it is called Oat Ridge. Oh, to be a hermit and live here one day. Alright, at the south side of Oat Ridge, we came across Oat Creek, which puts us at 4.6 miles for the day. This leads right into the ocean, which looks very picturesque. Wow. For some reason, this creek isn't on a lot of maps, which is why I showed you a different map earlier. That's beautiful, dude. We found this trail marker, but we didn't take this trail.
There's that bird. See it floating?
Yeah. Oh, that's brutal. Found this outcropping in the trees, which looked like it could be a bear den.
Huh?
Right after that, we came upon Kinsey Creek. Honestly, at this point, my shoes and socks had already been wet a few times, and I was too lazy to take them off and put on my Birks. So I didn't mind saving some time by just going in. Now that I look back at it though, that was a stupid idea because I ended up putting my Birks on anyway while I waited for everyone else. That little grove around the creek sped us out to this beautiful view. You can see where there must have been a fire on the side of this mountain because you got these skeleton trees all over it. I think this year or last year. It was super muddy in front of this barn, and I ran into some unavoidable sludge. I will say, hiking with thick socks and Birkenstocks is the most comfortable way to hike because your toes can breathe, they're really lightweight, and if your socks are thick enough, like darn tough socks are, you can't feel the small pebbles underneath your feet, which was a problem for me on the beach, so I just took off my Birks here. These are the Birkenstock Arizona EVA foam sandals, by the way. Great camp shoes too. Not a sponsor, but I just like them.
Oh, shit.
We made it to the big creek, which is the second to last creek crossing before we get to camp, and this was probably one of the other hardest parts of the hike, because there's a ton of medium and large rocks that are hard to walk across, and it's awkward. You guys can hopefully get an idea of the grand scale of these ginormous mountains here on the side. They look a lot bigger in person. I got my epic mustache walking staff. I'm basically the Lorax.
Did you chop down this tree?
Now I'm Gandalf. Refilled at the stream here. It was cool to see this boat out in the distance. Walking on these rocks sucked and was really tough on the ankles. If y'all know what this is, leave a comment because it looked super weird. As we walked along the beach, we saw a poor dead octopus. Yeah, I wonder what happened to him. I see these weird holes in almost every park I go to. These holes are actually called tophoni, and I guess they're caused by either piddock clams, which are marine mollusks, also known as living drill bits, which is very fitting, or weathering and erosion. Or in glacier parks, rocks get trapped between the glacier and the rock, and the flowing water causes the rock to spin and carve a hole into the rock, which is super interesting. Saw this rabbit running by as we got closer to Big Flat. That was a rabbit.
It was so cute.
We ran into some other hikers that were whale watching, and we actually saw a whale with her calf, as you can see here. We saw them come up several times. Speaking of Big Flat Creek, here we are. Out of the 6 creeks, this was one of the biggest, of course. The reason it's so big is because it's actually 2 creeks merging together into one. The North Fork Big Flat Creek and Big Creek converged just before the beach, so crossing it was kind of gnarly. Like it's calmer up there. I just wonder if it's shallower. It's pretty much the end of the day. We got to camp at Miller Flat right at sunset, and it was perfect. As you can see, this campsite was large, flat, and came with 2 fire pits with sitting logs, already better than a New York City apartment. I'm thinking found this pile of voodoo ritual shells here. Not my girlfriend talking about how she's more likely to be killed by the male hikers near us.
I'm statistically the most likely to get knocked out of all of us, so.
Thank God.
I could probably take. Can't wait to get a fire going with that background.
Yeah. Got the duplex tent set up. You can't see it in this video, so I'll show you next video, but this whole area is surrounded by poison oak. Luckily, none of us got it though. I went out by the beach to catch the last bit of sunset. You can see the lights on in the houses on Black Sand Beach, which is tomorrow's end point, about 8.5 miles south. You can also see other hikers' campfires. It's about bedtime and I got my rumple blanket tied to my sleeping pad over my Katabatic Palisades 22-degree quilt, and this might be comfier than my actual bed. If you have any gear questions, let me know in the comments. You can see the moonlight shining through the trees in my tent, and that's how I'll end my second night on the legendary Lost Coast Trail. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I usually post more content on Instagram and Reddit. Be sure to check out my epic gear company, Orion Gear. Please like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for next episode, where we finish off the last day on the Lost Coast Trail.